Welcome to Ear Shifter. He's Sean Capstick.
And he's Rene Rouleau.
And Sean, tell us why we're here.
Well, we are a criticism and review podcast. Well, not so much criticism, because this show is all about bands we feel we love and we feel that need a greater profile, are important to us, and we want to share with our listeners.
Yeah, we basically want to share the love of the bands that we love.
But I got a question before we get into this band, Rene.
Okay.
How do you feel about the algorithm?
What do you mean?
Well, you told me the other day that you have turned off your auto-suggest.
Oh, I hate my auto-suggest.
Whereas I like the auto-suggest. So I'm kind of conflicted about the algorithm because I like when a band that I haven't heard comes on, but I feel that's kind of like artificial and not as real as what I hope we can be. Is that guy in the record store back when there were record stores, person you respect, person you want to know their opinion, and we are personally curating something that we think you want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I do feel like the auto-suggest is a bit of a fake out, and I feel it's lazy as well. So a little judgy, guys, but yeah, a little lazy. And I think what this podcast is all about is about exploring, and exploring means going out there on your own and finding new things. And that's what excites both of us, I think, the most.
So who do you want to talk about today? Who do you want people to explore?
Yeah. So today we are talking about Neutral Milk Hotel. And if you don't know that name, it's going to sound pretty strange to you, I'm sure.
Do you know how they got the name?
Well, interesting you say that, because we're actually going to get into that. But I think also it's like the name is a hint of just how odd and unique the music is.
Yes.
And how odd and unique his singing style is, and how odd and unique his lyrics are, right? It's just a little hint, a glimmer into his world.
So if you can get past listening to a band called Neutral Milk Hotel, then maybe they're a band that you should be listening to more.
Yeah, exactly. So Neutral Milk Hotel, or NMH as we might call it throughout this episode, was founded in Ruston, Louisiana in 1989. Originally, Jeff Mangum performed under the name Milk, but discovered that there were a few other bands named Milk or artists that were named Milk. So he said, oh, okay, well, we'll keep the Milk, but we'll call it Neutral Milk Hotel.
And why did he not go for Milk? Or what's the Clockwork Orange where they go into the bar and
Milka
get
or
Milka
like,
Plus?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. That would have been cool. And you know what's weird is I did Google, like, why Neutral Milk Hotel then? Come on. But of course, Jeff Mangum, being who he is, was like, he purposely kind of kept it close to his chest. Some suggest that it was influenced by the surrealist Dadaist movement and has no real meaning. He probably just liked the sound of it, but he never really revealed why he called them Neutral Milk Hotel.
I think this is going to be a theme of your the podcast so far.
Yeah, but I love him for it. So Neutral Milk Hotel actually began as a recording project for Jeff Mangum, just him. So let's talk about the sound a little bit first, because the sound is truly unique and has been described as deliberately low quality sound. It's also been described as old Eastern European folk music. Yes, that's what I said, folks. Eastern European folk music, jazz, punk, and multi-instrumentation, including non-traditional instruments like the singing saw and uilleann pipes. Uilleann pipes are also known as union pipes, or sometimes called Irish bagpipes. So they're a little bit smaller than your Scottish bagpipes. And the singing saw, well, I mean, Sean, we saw them, right, together.
Yeah.
Do you remember the singing saw?
It's a little droney.
It's a little droney, but also the way it is exactly what it sounds like. It's literally a traditional handsaw that you put between your legs, between your thighs, and you bend it purposely a little bit. And then you take a violin bow, let's say, and you put the violin bow over the non-sharp side of that saw. And it creates a sound, a very unique sound. Okay, so that covers the, quote, weird instruments. But there's also trumpets, flugelhorns, trombones, tubas, French horns, and euphoniums. Don't even know what that is, but I love that. The weird instruments were those two, but these two, totally normal for a rock band. All those horns.
Who doesn't like a euphonium every now and again?
Exactly. Okay, so that's just the sound. Now let's talk in terms of lyrics. And Sean, we all know who is into lyrics more than the other, and that would be you. Not to put you on the spot. So Jeff wrote surreal, opaque lyrics that covered a wide range of topics, including love, spirituality, nostalgia, sex, and loneliness. He also wrote about the tiredness and disappointing nature of life in general. He had an idealistic vision of how things should work, and he kind of thought that maybe he could achieve this for himself and his music friends through music. And that was kind of his goal, was to retain his idealism and find that idealistic view through success with music, which is a little bit of a precursor to where we'll go with this. Now, I'm going to gloss over what became EPs later on, but there were a bunch of early songs that
are more pastiches, more like with, I listened to them that I hadn't before because
me too.
I had to go back to see them. And yeah, you can see that the ideas of what the albums would become in those songs. That's kind of interesting to see. He had an idea and he refined it over time. Yeah.
So there are basically two EPs, guys, that were actually released much, much later. And one is called Everything Is EP and the other one's called Ferris Wheel on Fire EP. Now, the Everything was recorded as early as 1993. So you recall that's about 3 years before Avery Island. But with Ferris Wheel on Fire, I don't know about you, Sean, but I felt like on some of those songs, you can really start to hear Jeff developing a much more arresting vocal sound, and his cadence is very unusual as well. His draggy songs. And I think, in fact, two of those songs on Ferris Wheel on Fire could have appeared on their first album, which is called Avery Island. I feel like the two that belong there was the title track, Ferris Wheel on Fire, and Engine, both of those being my personal faves off that EP. So now let's talk about that first album on Avery Island.
Okay.
Otherwise known as the precursor to their much more famous release, which we'll largely focus on in this episode. So Avery Island, I think, is just, in my opinion, fully overshadowed by the arguable perfection of the second and final album of Neutral Milk Hotel, which was called In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. So some critics, retrospectively, believe that On Avery Island served as a blueprint for In the Aeroplane Over the Sea.
Mm-hmm. You can see that.
Yeah, you can feel that. So On Avery Island is released in 1996, recorded in Denver. It's actually a full solo project by Jeff Mangum, produced by Robert Schneider of Apples and Stereo, and part of the Elephant Six Recording Company, which we're going to talk about the Elephant Six Recording Company a little bit later, because that's a whole other vibe, a whole other thing to get into. So described as an indie rock, psychedelic folk album with a purposeful lo-fi sound, Rolling Stone magazine likened it to the lo-fi indie rock act Guided by Voices, which you introduced me to, and we actually saw them live as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love those guys. Who knows? They might even come up in an episode one day.
Yeah. Simpler. I mean, Guided by Voices it's straight ahead rock and roll and songwriting, as opposed to, as we'll get into the lyrics. When you talk about lyrics, this is not straight ahead rock and roll. If you want to hear heads down, no nonsense, mindless boogie, let's talk about another episode, dear listener. But yeah, if you want to hear a soundscape, I think is the way to describe those. And the soundscape on Avery Island is not perfected yet.
No, but I do love quite a few of those songs. I really do. And I almost feel it's otherworldly is the way to describe the Neutral Milk Hotel world. It's just onto itself. But anyway, Enemy gave it an 8 out of 10. And I love this quote: Neutral Milk Hotel can convert miserable as sin introspection into folky mantras that bore into your skull like a well-aimed power drill. I just feel like they almost took Mangum and wrote that. Pitchfork highlighted songs like You've Passed and Garden Head, Leave Me Alone. That's one song, Garden Head, Leave Me Alone, as some of the best NMH songs. Garden Head, Leave Me Alone is actually one of my faves off the album. It's a bit rockier than a lot of the album, but let's give it a listen.
We ride roller coasters into the ocean. We feel no emotion as we spiral down to the world. And I guess it's worth your time, 'cause there's some lives you live and some you leave behind. It gets hard to explain. The garden head knows my
Okay, so look, I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs on that album. But what I want to do now is I want to contrast that song with my favorite song on this album. And that song is A Baby for Pre. And we're going to hear that right now.
blistering pre, all smiling and swollen legs, babies to breathe with their hearts hanging open all over the sheets, as soft as beats in some brown dress hurts roar, and with peace in her breath and the rest of her ringing, they'll sting through her chest with a force hard and beating till wonderfully wet she will get, until she's soaked inside her clothes. And there is no sorry to be sorry for roll around the floors on that.
Okay, so this song is my favorite because it's just such a quiet, delicate song. It reminds me of Elliott Smith's Pitsula, which is another song I absolutely love. The whole song, by the way, folks, is 1 minute, 21 seconds. In fact, about 80% of their songs run between a minute and a half and 3 minutes. There are a few exceptions, but that is kind of where it is, average-wise. All right, Sean, do you have any comments on this guy?
Well, so the album is good. Again, it's always, I think we're going to come back to what if with the band, right? Because you've said it, they've got one extraordinary album coming next. So this album is good. If the Aeroplane Over the Sea came out, I don't think I'd ever listen to this album. I certainly wouldn't listen to the other pre-song, which is, you highlight, we've talked about this in the past, listeners. Rene likes certain things off the song. He rarely puts the record, the needle on and listens to it right to the end. But the last song is kind of unlistenable.
I would fully agree. And it's 13 minutes long, and I do not enjoy that song. No.
Now, maybe we'll get comments from Neutral Milk Hotel fans who will argue that that is the best. That is a sonic experiment. It is a drony, lively, loud song, all the good things that we like. But compared to what came next and be compared to the rest of the album, there's Song About Sex that you haven't mentioned. That is,
love it.
A loud, great banger. Yes. So, this album is good, but without the rest of the context, I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
Interesting. Let's just talk about that last song, because I actually want to read it out loud. What it's actually, the full name of the song is Pre-Sisters Swallowing a Donkey's Eye. That is the name of the song, folks. So again, kind of a glimmer into lyrically where Mangum lives, and it's
abstractly
another
where he lives.
Yes. Yeah.
I think he's less of a lyricist and more of a surrealist, abstractist, dadaist. Yeah, he's putting words together that are a conventional song on the song you like, and typically are not conventional songs. They are ideas that people can put whatever they want on them.
Yes, which is very, I feel like you did some research ahead of this and cheated. But yeah, that's actually something he talks about as well. But I think you kind of hit on something too. I think sometimes he just enjoys the words together, whether they make sense or not. It's kind of what you're hinting at.
Which is, I think, is using the voice as an instrument, using words as to evoke feelings as opposed to evoke thought, and feelings are thought, or vice versa. So he is an abstractionist. Yeah. Full stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I'm going to say something that surprised me in my research and re-listening of the albums. I actually think I enjoy On Avery Island more than Aeroplane, which is going to just piss you off to no end. But I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think maybe I overplayed Aeroplane way back when, and I just played it too much. And then rediscovering the albums, I'm like, yeah, I know Aeroplane, but On Avery Island, I didn't listen to as much, and I really got to appreciate it more.
Okay, I am surprised.
Yes.
Because On Avery Island is, I think, one of these albums that you have to listen to.
You think it is?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think totally.
Yeah.
I think it could be, what's the word?
Seminal?
Yes.
Yes. I think it could be seminal too. And then song-wise, you hinted at it, but Song for Sex?
Yep.
Someone Is Waiting, love that song. Where You'll Find Me Now, love that song. And then there's another song called Naomi. That is the most played song on Spotify, about 8 million listens. And Naomi is a song about Galaxy 500's Naomi Yang.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So it's not an abstraction. It's about a real person who would have been a contemporary, a little older than Jeff. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I like that song. But again, I'm surprised that that's the number one song on Spotify.
On that album.
Oh, okay.
Just that album.
Yeah.
No, just that album. But it's still surprising. Why is Song for Sex not the number one? I would have thought, first of all, Spotify-wise, first song is always the most played on any album, right? Generally, because everyone just listens to the first song and decides, right? But I'm surprised that Song for Sex was not the most popular song on this album. But there you go. So I will say it. I'm saying it maybe for contentious points, maybe to just shock you a little bit, but I do find myself gravitating to On Avery Island a little bit more than Aeroplane these days.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, of course, Jeff had to tour on Avery Island, right? He had to tour. But he had no musicians because it was a solo project. Jeff recruited 3 musicians to tour with him. Julianne Custer, he's the guy that wears the funny hat and plays the singing saw and spins around a lot on stage. And then there's Jeremy Barnes and Scott Spillane. And Scott Spillane plays all the horn instruments.
And who has got the biggest beard before beards were trendy.
Truly,
Yes.
The biggest beard, epic beard. So they made enough money on that tour to move to Athens, Georgia in 1997, where a large group of Elephant Six musicians were living. There, he wrote and demoed nearly every song for the second album, the epic album, the perfect album. He played them for the rest of the band, and the band then moved back to Denver to record their iconic and seminal album In the Aeroplane Over the Sea with, again, Robert Schneider. Essentially, what happened was they came back to Athens, Georgia with the recorded tracks and went back to the Elephant Six group, which is, it's almost like a commune, the Elephant Six recording company. They have potluck dinners, and at those potluck dinners, they all share their crazy ideas. They share vegetarian meals. It was actually an event where you bring your recordings and they all listen. And legend has it that when they played In the Aeroplane Over the Sea, the larger group, all the members and members of Apples in Stereo, Olivia Tremor Control, Elf Power, of Montreal, all of these bands are relatively famous indie bands. Like a lot of people would have known who they were. But when they played this album, this recording, apparently everyone was just silent at the end. They were just dumbstruck, apparently. And in fact, he worked on several projects under Elephant Six, including he worked on Apples in Stereo, he worked on Olivia Tremor Control, and 2 bands in the Elephant Six were actually NMH members as well. So very communal, very like sharing ideas and playing on each other's albums, which sounds like a nice feeling. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what is Aeroplane really about?
Whatever you want it to be. That's
Which is
what
he
I
says.
think.
Yeah, you cheated, dude. You totally cheated.
That is totally what I like. I've tried to figure it out for years.
Okay.
That at one point I thought that Jeff was gay and the two-headed boy was about just, being out of control of your own body and all of the body parts and the death and the suicidal idolations of that it's been. And then I'm like, no, that's completely wrong, because he's talking about a woman that you're going to talk about, the one of the main themes that actually is obvious. But like, I have tried to analyze that album, tried to put it right in my head. I love the words, how they roll together, but they are ultimately meaningless or whatever you want it to mean, which I think that's why it's a perfect album, because every song is great. I don't think there's one song that I would skip over, and you're shaking your head that you would do that too, right? So that's rare again for Rene. But it's ultimately not about anything.
Yeah. Okay. So you're beating me to the punch a little bit, but I do have guys, I'm sorry, but it's a rather long quote, but I think it's a poignant quote from Jeff Mangum about how he got to this album. And the quote is so famous that actually Pitchfork used it. A couple other mags used it as well. It's like a well-known on the internet quote. So I'm going to read it to you. Here's how it goes. He says, "Right before recording on Avery Island, I was walking around in Ruston, Louisiana, waiting to go to Denver to record. I don't consider myself to be a very educated person because I've spent a lot of time and a lot of my life in dreams. And I was walking around wondering, if I knew the history of the world, would everything make more sense to me, or would I just lose my mind? And I came to the conclusion that I'd probably just lose my mind. The next day, I went into a bookstore, and there was the Diary of Anne Frank. I'd never given it any thought in my entire life. I spent 2 days reading it and then completely flipped out. I spent about 3 days crying and just was completely flipped out. While I was reading the book, she was alive to me. I pretty much knew what was going to happen." And so that's basically what he claims it's about. But then he later, Sean, says, but it really can be anything. It could be about anything you want. But the themes that many talk about, and listen, you're not alone. Many people have many kind of theories and themes that they think it's about. And some of those include Mangum's urge to save or reclaim the spirit of Anne Frank in the face of an uncaring world. It's also about the universal theme of growing up. That's talked about a lot. Mm-hmm. So when we're young, adulthood is overwhelming. You can do as you please as an adult, but at the cost of the comfort and security of your childhood. And I think that's a struggle that he had as well. And by the way, listeners, I just want to kind of mention this. Aeroplane is the way it's spelt. It's not spelt the conventional way, which again is very, very Neutral Mogul Hotel to spell it in the old-timey way versus the modern way. So the album is also a larger commentary on relationships and religion as a whole. All right, so with that, we're going to go do an actual rapid-fire listen of some of the choice tracks off this album, partially because we only have 2 albums to talk about, really. And there's so much more else to cover in terms of Jeff Mangum and what happens after this. So let's start with the title track, In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. And I said that way on purpose.
What a curious life we have found here tonight. There is music that sounds from the street. There are lights in the clouds and there's ghosts all around. Hear a voice as it's rolling and ringing through me. Soft and sweet, how the notes all bend and reach above the tree. most smooth, made your voice so smooth and sweet. But now we keep where we don't know. Our secrets sleep in winter clothes with one you loved so long ago. Now we don't even know.
Okay, so Sean, honestly, this is the most conventional song on the entire album.
Totally.
But
Nice song. I like the song.
it's a lovely song. It's also the most played song on this album. But it's also kind of the most expected song on this album. It's lovely, but it has no real unusual music changes versus the first two songs, which maybe I wrongly skipped. You know what I mean? Like, I love King of Carrot Flowers Part 2.
I like parts 1 and 3.
Okay.
They're all good.
They're all good. They're all good.
And they just start the album like bang.
Yeah.
Like now you're into surrealism, suicidal tendencies, love, just crazy lyrics. And then I think it's appropriate that the title track comes on. The third song, because parts 2 and 3 are joined.
Oh, yeah. Sorry,
as they
I forgot
should
that.
be.
Yes.
And so listeners, you should listen to King of Carrot Flowers parts 1, 2, and 3 all together because we can't play them for you. But those are worth the price of admission to the album themselves.
And this is a testament to the album. It's so hard to pick the songs, right? Like, I picked this one because it was the most played. So I thought this is a nice, gentle way to ease the listener into this album. And maybe wrongly, because, the first two songs are just bangers. They're just awesome. The other thing I want to note, though, is in this song, you can actually hear the singing saw, which literally sounds like what a saw would sing. Okay, so on that one, it's the most played. It's 151 million plays, that single song. Okay, let's just jump into the next song, which is considered their post-punk song on this album. It's called Holland 1945.
Okay, so the second most conventional song on the album, simple love story about a girl who he's never met in 1945, and that's the only girl he's ever loved. So, pining, heartfelt, simple boy doesn't meet girl, misses girl, then moves on.
And again, kind of a straight ahead, although great post-punk song, right? Lots of energy, and you're done. In and out pretty quick. Okay. But I think that also speaks to the diversity of the album too, right? You got some quiet ones, you got some rock, like bangers. The next one is called Oh Comely. That's the one that we're going to cover next. And that one's an 8-minute song. So we're going to hear that one next.
Oh, comely, there isn't such one friend that you could find. He is standing next to me. He's only my enemy. I'll crush him with everything I own. Say what you want to say and hang for your hollow ways, moving your mouth to pull out all your miracle aim for me.
Okay, so apparently his singing on this song was done in one, what they call scratch take. And apparently it tells the story of someone's adulterous father. Any other comments on that one? Or are you good?
No, it's a nice song. But again, I would have, if we only have 11 songs to pick, you are picking every other one that I would have picked. So keep going.
Wow. Yes. Okay. Well, let's talk about music in that time, in 1998. What was going on in the normal world, the non-Mangum world, basically? So 1998 British top singles, Stereophonics, Bartender and the Thief. I'm a big fan of the Stereophonics myself. Beastie Boys, Intergalactic, and your favorite band, Radiohead, No Surprises. So those are the three kind of songs that were there. That's the songs that you and I might like.
Yep.
And then in the pop world, it was Madonna's Ray of Light, Sheryl Crow's My Favorite Mistake, and some Shania Twain, and some Boys to Men. So that was the world that we were living in.
That Jeff Mangum was not.
Yeah.
And he was creating a little corner of the world where you could crawl in and do anything you want.
I really love that description, actually. That's really apt. That's really cool. Yeah, exactly. So, and also they just feel old-timey, otherworldly, like really, truly crawl in a corner and just be in that world. Okay, so this brings us to the album's closing song, which is the final song that I picked off of this album, which you probably disagree with as well. I don't know.
I like the original, the part one of Two-Headed Boy. Why did you pick Two-Headed Boy part 2?
Well, I'll tell you why, but I'll tell you why after we listen.
Okay.
Brother, see, we are one in the same. And you left with your head filled with flames, and you watched as your brains fell out through your teeth. Push the pieces in place, make your smile sweet to see. Don't you take this away, I'm still wanting my face on your cheek. And when we break, we'll wait for our miracle. God is a place where some holy spectacle lies.
Okay, so that's a great song. It's very similar to the unnamed part 1, just the Two-Headed Boy. It's droney. It goes on. It hangs. Is that why you like it better?
It's everything I love about a song. Whereas the original Two-Headed Boy, it's faster, it's punchier, and it's great. It's great too. But this one just makes me a little extra melancholy and sad. And the other reason I did want to play this, and I didn't play the very end of it, but at the end of the song, do you remember what happens at the very end of the song?
It drones, goes on, and makes you want to listen to the album again.
Yes, that. And the way it ends is you actually hear Jeff Mangum place his acoustic guitar down on the ground and walk away. And that's the way it ends. So if you think about that ending and you think about the internet and you think about what happens to Jeff Mangum, which we're going to get to in a minute, there was a lot of talk about why he ended it the way he ended it. Because what happened next is partially what led to the mythology fascination of the band and this particular album. So, a few months after In the Aeroplane Over the Sea was launched, and after a very brief tour, Jeff disappeared.
Yes, walked away.
Stopped making music, walked away. And this disappearance only strengthened the reputation online because everyone was buzzing. This album was the shit, so to speak, and he's gone. And we don't know where he is. We don't know what he's doing. Jeff's reason? He had nothing else to say.
He felt like it. Which is a good reason.
But that's funny, but this is going to bring it down a bit. He also admitted he had a nervous breakdown.
Yes.
So, but he had nothing else to say is kind of poignant too, right? Like, and that's why the end of that song dropping the guitar, walking away is kind of like, I've got nothing else. This is it. We're done. So Slate magazine called him, and I kind of like this, the Salinger of indie rock. Interesting that they call him the Salinger of indie rock, because Salinger too had issues with growing up and becoming an adult and what that meant and the fakery of it all, right? So I love that quote. Okay, so where'd he go? Where'd he go, Sean?
Canada.
I wish. So Mangum spent years rebuilding himself after his spiritual crisis. And since part of that crisis was his recognition that music would never save him from his demons, he couldn't very well embark on another album. He was kind of like, this is it. I'm disillusioned. I had this successful album. Everyone says it's a successful album. And yet I don't have that idealism anymore. And my friends are still unhappy. This is literally how he felt. So he wandered the globe to find spiritual balance, even spending time in a monastery. He released a disc of field recordings of Bulgarian folk music and then disappeared. And I listened to some of that folk music, and it's exactly what you would think it would be, Bulgarian folk music. He called himself Jefferson when he hosted a late night radio show on New Jersey's WFMJ a few times until someone discovered him, and then he vanished again. Sometimes he'd appear on stage at friends' rock shows for a song, sending the crowd into a tizzy. But when those friends suggest he record a new album, he'd disappear again. He did some mystery solo shows and disappeared again. He did one in Toronto, Sean. Did you know this?
No.
I did not either, man. In 2011 at Trinity St. Paul's Church.
Wow, that's a great venue.
Right? Pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're idiots for missing that one. Yeah. Okay. And then they regrouped, and NMH regrouped in 2012 for the reunion tour, 160 shows, which you and I saw, of course.
And you saw them twice.
And I saw them twice. They're the only band, folks, that I've seen 2 nights in a row. And I have no regrets. I loved both nights. Just amazing and magical.
And it didn't feel contrived. It didn't feel they were doing it for the lucre, the filthy lucre. They were energetic and wanted to, like, it was a great show. It brought those albums to life. And I didn't feel like it was forced or like 5-10 years later, right? It was like, okay, now I'm seeing this great album.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was super, super fun time. Okay. So we are getting to the point where we say, is this an ear shifter band?
So I don't even know if they're a band. They're a myth. They're a idea that he has created and then walked away from. And, like if he's a happier person now than when he was, making music, beautiful music, but tortured music, then great. I'm glad they're not a band. I'm glad they're a myth. And I've got a caution for our young listeners with the algorithm that, because how many plays do they have on Spotify?
In terms of monthly listeners, they have 1.1 million.
So that's huge for a person that doesn't tour, a person that doesn't promote, that it's only on the strength of this abstraction that was created, close to 20 years ago. So I'm worried that if you had never listened to it, how is it going to affect your algorithm? Because are they the beginning or the end? If you are going to put on Neutral Milk Hotel for the first time, please, dear listeners, put on that Olivia Tremor Control. Put on the microphones. Put on early Bright Eyes, who was very definitely lo-fi and abstract. Put on Daniel Johnson, who was totally abstract. Who else are
the
lo-fi?
Decemberists?
Early Decemberists. They were more humor than abstract lo-fi there. But there's a lot of...
Heavily influenced by.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That don't stop here. That be this the beginning of your musical journey, not the end. Because I unfortunately think with these seminal albums, with these icons, it becomes the end. And I really think that's what maybe some of the pressure that he was under. How do you follow up something that is so perfect as in the Aeroplane Over the Sea?
Yeah.
So definitely an ear shifter album.
Yes. I forgot to mention, I played Neutral Milk Hotel to my daughter. She's 23 and she's into music. And, sure enough, I think his voice is so emotive, and we haven't really talked about his voice per se, but it's polarizing. It can grate. It can. So be warned, listener, if you go deep, you've got to like his voice, and you've got to like what he's doing with his voice, because I think that's purposeful. And I think, there are some greats out there that do the same thing. Syd Barrett, same sort of style, same sort of really emotive, but a little hard to listen to.
Troubled, and who knows what Pink Floyd could have been if they hadn't kicked him out and became this monolithic rock band.
I mean, I love them too, but sure, yes, I love them both for different reasons. I really do. Or the OG of kind of sounding off tune, if you will, Leonard Cohen, right? My parents raised me on Leonard Cohen every Sunday night at dinner. It was Leonard Cohen, and that kind of introduced me to music that was different. And I mentioned the Decemberists, so Colin Malloy admits that, or not admits, Colin Malloy says
under duress.
Yeah. Colin Malloy has said that Jeff Mangum was a big influence on him, and you can hear it in him. But I love the Decemberists too. Probably another episode down the road.
Look forward to that.
But yeah, I think your point is well taken, that don't let it stop here. Explore others. And that's what this show is all about. I'm surprised you didn't challenge me, because folks, we always talk about like, hey, I'm going to cover this band next. And Sean said, really? Neutral Milk Hotel? They just had one album though. And I'm like, there are lots of bands that were seminal that only had one album. Sex Pistols.
They had Rock and Roll Swindle.
Bullshit.
I think it was the greatest rock and roll swindle.
But yeah. But what you did was you made me dig into that because I was ready for you. So Joy Division, 2 albums.
What would Joy Division have been like if Ian Curtis hadn't committed suicide and they hadn't turned into New Order? That's a lovely thought experiment.
Yeah.
Because they are another 2 seminal albums about what could have been.
Yeah. Stone Roses. Not a huge fan myself, but 2 albums only. And Stone Roses have had major influence on so many bands. NWA, 2 albums. So, and Jeff Buckley, who I'm personally not a fan.
But what a waste that he died to.
Yes. Pitchfork ultimately gave this album a perfect 10 out of 10, which I thought was rare, but then I dug in. Turns out they've given it about 150 perfect 10s, but a lot of those were retrospective. So, like Stooges' Raw Power, they gave a 10 out of 10. Pink Floyd's Animals, they gave a 10 out of 10. The Clash, they gave a 10 out of 10.
Warranted.
Yeah, all warranted. REM's Reckoning, which is one of our favorites, 10 out of 10. Led Zeppelin, Public Enemy. So I thought it was rare. 150 albums, maybe not so rare. Pitchfork also ranked this album number 4 on the best albums of the 90s. NME put Aeroplane at number 98 of the greatest albums of all time, which is a big statement. And 2005 Spin listed this album as one of the greatest albums of the last 25 years.
Agreed.
Pardon me?
Agreed
on all of that. Sean, what's up next?
I want to talk about your band's favorite band.
Whoa. Okay. All right. Well, listeners, stay tuned. Until next time, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Ear Shifter. Tune in next time where we'll cover another band that deserves more. You can find Ear Shifter on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Friend us or listen to our playlists on Spotify and visit earshifter.com for more information. Special thanks go to our logo designer, Stuart Thursby, and our intro-outro music by Joe Novak. You can find him as Bye Bye Badman, one word, on SoundCloud. And a big shout out to Joe for being our awesome sound engineer / editor. Until next time.